Hey, welcome back to another Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not quite 11 o'clock Central Time just yet, but we want to get the pre-show on the way. So it has gotten much colder here in Chicago. If you're anywhere in the Chicago area, you'll probably know it's very windy. As you know, the name suggests, Chicago is known as a windy city. I am back from Wisconsin, and my parents, my wife, and myself, we went over to Wisconsin, take a quick break away from everything. And I know Monday we were supposed to have our real estate investing Q&A. We didn't have one, so we'll sort of lump this together. We'll answer some questions about real estate investing as well as how to pay off your Heloc. But also the main focus of today's show is going to be how to recession-proof your home equity line of credit, how to watch for the signs, and making sure that we don't get caught, quote unquote, with our pants down. So we got a couple of people joining us. Welcome, Robert, and go and share where you're from down below. We'd love to hear from where you're at. We would love to see who we're talking to and so forth. And so it is 11 o'clock Central Time, and I want to welcome everyone to our show. This show, our format, the way that we do it is we go and talk about our main topic, and of course, along the way, we're going to answer your questions about real estate investing as well as using your home equity line of credit to pay off your mortgage. So let's get things started and get to the main part of the show. So before we get to the main part of the show, which we're going to talk about how to recession-proof, we first want to bring up one of our sponsors, and that is PropStream. And PropStream is a software that my brother and I, Daniel and I, use. It's a phenomenal software. And what this software does, guys, is it helps you go and find real estate deals that are off market, meaning they're not available to the public eye, right? This sort of gives you the competitive edge. So not only does it help you find more deals, but it also helps you find the owner's information. So if you're looking at a house and you're wondering who the owner is and how to contact them, well, PropStream can help you guys do what's called skip tracing to find information about the owner. The PropStream software also does rehab calculations. So if you're not very versed in construction and calculating rehab costs, PropStream can help you with that as well. And also what it does, it helps you send out letters and postcards out to individuals that may be interested in selling their home, and that may give you opportunity to do your deal. So go and sign up for 7 days of free trial with PropStream. Go and check it out. If you don't like it, just cancel it. There's no risk for you guys to do it. So go and check it out. 7 days free trial. Our listeners get that advantage. And after the 7-day free trial, if you like it, if you're keeping it, it's only $99 a month. I mean, if you do just one deal, guys, one wholesale deal, one fix and flip deal, or even buy and hold deal, I use it ourselves. It's amazing. It's great. Go and check that out. Okay. So let's go and right to it. If you guys have any questions, go and drop them down below. But I want to get to the main topic for today, which is the recession-proofing your Heloc. Now, I want to give you a little bit of context, and I know we talked about this last week, but you know what? Repetition is the key to learning, right? Repetition is key to perfecting our knowledge and our information retention. So let's talk about what happened back in 2008 as well as 2009 when the market crashed. We had this whole crazy thing with subprime mortgage situation. And how did that ultimately impact HELOCs? Why did so many people lose their HELOC during 2008 to 2010? Really, the peak was around 2010 to 2012. That's when people really started to feel it. It wasn't really what happened in 2008 that people haven't felt it. It was more so 2007 to 2008, the market officially, quote unquote, crashed. Although, you know, I would like to argue that the market crash actually happened back in 2006. It really, the fruition, the effect of what was happening in 2006 wasn't felt until 2008, and the vast majority of the consumers didn't feel the shake until 2010 to 2012. This is when we saw rocket high foreclosure rates, rocket high modification rates for existing loans. So let's talk about what actually happened, right? Back in 2006, 2008. And what ended up happening was that the government got involved in the banking business, okay? They got involved mainly because they wanted to make sure that more and more people were buying homes, the home ownership, right? We had the 2K crash, dot-com crash back in 2000, 2001, and people started shifting more towards real estate, wanting to buy real estate, and the government got into that business, insuring some of these loans that the banks were giving out to individuals. Now, the problem that I had back in 2005 to 2008 was the whole idea of subprime mortgage, where subprime mortgage was given to less credit-worthy individuals, people who really didn't really deserve to get the loan in the first place, honestly. They were getting these loans, and it was obviously this was just kindled to the fire, so to speak. So government was backing all these loans. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, these entities were backing these loans along with FHA, which I believe I'm going to talk about this after I cover what happened in 2008. I believe that the FHA is going to be the next cause for craziness that's going to come. But in 2008, 2009, subprime mortgages were the thing, right? Were demand, and it was a demand more so because the banks were collateralizing these subprime mortgages and selling them as safe bonds. Now, for those who don't know what collateralizing is, I'm going to give you an example. Basically, what the banks were doing is they were taking thousands of these subprime mortgages, okay, and packaging them up, and basically it's kind of like almost like Transformers. It's like combining different things to make one thing. So like a fruit basket. That's a good example. So it's like a financial fruit basket, right? They took a bunch of loans, packaged into one, and they say, hey, you know what? We got this amazing financial product. Buy it. It's really safe. It's secured by thousands of different subprime mortgages. Even if one or two of these go default or bad, you're good because there's economy of scale when it comes to these loans being packaged. So that's what the banks were doing. They were selling these subprime mortgage packages called CDOs, and they're selling these CDOs with really good credit rating. Now, these credit rating agencies or third-party entities were rating these high-risk CDOs, and they were calling it AAA or AA or an A-rated type of bonds. Okay, these are ratings that these agencies give to sort of rate their risk premium. So banks were saying, you know what, these are extremely safe. You can buy them. These are good investment, and people were buying them. That was a sad thing, and they were trading it back and forth between banks. It was just a crazy mess, and banks were making money. Right, banks were raking it in by selling these CDOs to another banks, and the bank was selling the CDOs to another bank, and it was just crazy things happening. So obviously, the banks were like, you know what, we need more people that are out there getting these subprime mortgages. These CDOs, they're making us a lot of money. We need to go and get more subprime mortgages out there so that we can bundle them up and sell more of these and get cash, right? So that's why the banks started giving out more subprime mortgages, and they were getting even more lenient as far as who gets mortgages. Banks were like, you know what, we need more people to get mortgages, so let's go and just like forget ethics and forget morals, and we're just gonna give loans away to anybody and everybody who wants them, right? They weren't even checking credit, they weren't even checking their debt to income ratio. It was just purely stated income. Like, you could literally walk into the bank and say, you know what, I make $150,000 a year when I only make $30,000 a year and can get a loan. It was that type of period where people were just going crazy, right? And what was happening was this type of artificial mortgage giving out to everybody zone, we were creating what's called phantom appreciation. And this is something that I talk about a lot in our shows, and this is something you need to be careful. If you don't understand how phantom appreciation works, this is where you get in trouble. So phantom appreciation happens by virtue of financing gets easier. So take a look at your neighborhood, okay? And if you see prices of your homes going up, okay, there's only, I shouldn't say only, there's two main ways that the home prices are going up. One is phantom appreciation, which because financing is easier, getting a loan is easier, now everybody is gonna go and buy a home, right? Which means if more people go in and are looking to buy a home, there's more demand, thus the price of the home goes up. Now, in a real natural organic appreciation, it happens because of population growth. There's more need for housing simply because there's more babies turning to adults. There's more of a population growth because there's a job, new employment, a new factory just opened up, or a major corporation just moved in, right? It's a classic example when Amazon moves into a town or a city, the town or city, the appreciation just goes up through the roof because there's gonna be more jobs, more high-paying jobs, meaning more people are looking to buy a home, more people are looking to get housing. So we have to draw the difference between what's phantom appreciation and what's organic appreciation. Now, back in 2006 to 2008, that's what was happening. We were seeing this crazy phantom appreciation because, number one, everyone was getting a loan. Everyone was getting a mortgage. Like, banks were giving out mortgages like candy, and thus everyone's like, hey, I got $400,000. I can go buy a home. right? Now there's a bidding war, right? If everyone's got $500,000 in their pocket, right, and this home is worth $400,000, well, guess what? There's gonna be more and more people like, you know what? I'm willing to pay $480 because I got $500,000, when the home is actually worth $400,000. So people were buying these homes for $480,000 or $500,000, whatever the case might be, and that was driving the prices up. Now, of course, as soon as that all dried up, as soon as no one was able to get subprime mortgages, as soon as financing got harder, guess what? Okay, the population remained the same, just the demand, because there's less money in the economy, it just dried up, and that's what happened in the crash. And of course, you saw several banks that go down. I think Bears and Stearns and Lehman Brothers were the main banks that went down and crashed, and they just burned up, right? Crazy things happen. Now, I believe, in conjunction to that, I believe that we're about to see a similar situation again in the next upcoming 1 or 2 years. Now, real quick, before we get to the future things of this, right? We have to talk about how does this relate to the Heloc? How do we recession-proof our Heloc? And what actually happened in 2008 and 2009 that have caused all the Heloc freezing and craziness happening? Now, what ended up happening is, going back to the phantom appreciation, people were getting Helocs, people were getting home equity line of credit based on phantom appreciation. So what was happening was, if you didn't buy a home, okay, if you didn't buy, everyone was buying home, right? All your neighbors, they bought a home, they bought a third house, fourth house, crazy things were happening. And here you are, right? You just don't want to buy a house, you're pretty content, but you know that your home appreciated because all the other phantom appreciation was happening, right? Because everyone was buying in an overpriced homes. Your home, by virtue of comparables and by fair market value, your own home also experienced an appreciation in value. So what ended up happening was a lot of people were like, hey, my home is worth more. I'm going to go get a Heloc. I'm going to get a home equity line of credit to go buy me a boat, or to go buy me a new car, or to go buy me a new house, or whatever the case might be. So what ended up happening was people were getting over leveraged, meaning they had more debt. Okay, by the time the market crashed, they had more debt than what their net worth is, or the actual value of the home. So let's say the home value was at $500,000, right here, and what the person owed was around $480,000 in terms of their combined debt. Okay, so they have a Heloc, a mortgage, whatever the case might be. So if they're at $500,000 value, $480,000, they're still good. They still have about $20,000 of equity. Well, when the phantom appreciation dried up, when the 2008 market crashed, that $500,000 is no longer $500,000. It drops down to, let's say, $450,000, or worst case scenario, even down to $380,000. Right? Some markets got hit really bad. Some markets didn't swing as bad. But let's say it dropped down to $400,000. You still owe $480,000. So there's that differential of $80,000 of debt that you owe, exceeding your actual home value. So this is what happened back in 2008. And banks were obviously freezing the Helocs, and they're shutting them down because they had all these the extra debt that people were carrying. And if you look at your mortgage document, if you look at your promissory note, what also constitutes as default, okay, what constitutes as a violation of that agreement is that if your debt exceeds far above what your home value is, that could also constitute as a default, according to your promissory note. So definitely check your promissory note as well as your mortgage document. But that's what was happening, guys. Back in 2008, 2009, people were owing more than what they actually own and what their value of the home is. And this is why banks were taking away Helocs and freezing them down, shutting them down, because it's just simple misuse and abuse of a financial instrument. Now, were there people who actually got to keep their Heloc? Yes, they got to keep the Heloc, and chances are what ended up happening is they got to keep the Heloc, but under the condition that the Heloc limit was probably reduced. So if they had a $100,000 Heloc limit, it was probably reduced down to like $20,000 or $30,000. So this is something to keep in mind. If you guys are going to use our strategy, something to keep in mind is that you have to take precautionary measures so that this doesn't happen when and if the recession does happen. So this is why here in the Kwak Brothers, we suggest, in our opinion, okay, our opinion is to keep the Heloc limit less than 30%. So if you have a $100,000 Heloc limit, keep it less than $30,000 of usage, just in case if the recession happens, and if there's ever a situation where banks are freezing Helocs and locking them down or reducing the limit, you'll be okay. You'll still survive, and there won't be a tremendous issue when it comes to managing your finances. So let's go ahead and See if there's any questions, guys. Go and drop any questions down below. We are, answering them. I know I don't see a whole lot of questions. So let's go and continue with what am I expecting to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? Or in fact, let's talk more short term. That's what I believe is going to happen in the next year or two. And this is something that Daniel and I pretty much agree with. Is that in the next a year or two, we may see a major slowdown, even a recession, which recession is defined by 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. So when we see a recession, I think it's going to happen mainly because a similar situation we've seen in 2008 and 2007, which now it's not so much a subprime mortgage. I think it's going to be more so FHA. People can buy homes, but now because FHA requirement is a little bit more lenient than your traditional home buying type of financing program, right? So FHA oftentimes requires less than 4% down. I've seen 0% down. It's just crazy. I see a lot of these happening now, right now, as we speak. People are buying homes less than 4% down, 0% down. Now, this is a huge problem because, again, more and more people are able to obtain financing, which we're now seeing major phantom appreciation. And when there's phantom appreciation, things can get ugly. It really can. And so this is something that we need to watch out for. And if you are buying homes with FHA, this is, again, this I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but that might be the issue that's leading up to the recession that may happen in the next year or two. Okay. Another thing that's really, really bad is happening is the student loan. Student loan is also, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, it's very much subprime, where student loans are now given out not based on credit and financial merit. It's purely based on need, which means that if you don't make a certain amount of money according to your tax return, okay, or your parents' tax return, you're pretty much given a student loan, right? Here's $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year, and that's what happens. And this is spooky because, again, this is pretty much what we've seen in 2006 and 2007 with homes. Students are now being basically shoved underneath the bus. Okay, they don't have any credit, they don't have any income, but they're getting into $40,000 debt, $60,000 debt. Some I've met $100,000 debt, and they don't even have a job. They don't even have income. They don't even have credit. Okay, let alone they don't even have credit cards to their name. So this is getting spooky, guys. And what's even worse is that Wall Street, of course, these banks are taking all these student loans, they're taking thousands of these student loans and packaging them, again, the fruit basket example, packaging that together to sell it to other banks, and they're calling it slabs, student loan asset-backed security. So again, this is another scary thing that's happening with student loans. It's not only the fact that students are getting loans without any credit or financial stability. It's the fact that banks are now playing a dangerous game again with using student loans, similar to how they used subprime mortgages back in 2005 to 2007. And of course, the whole thing bursted on itself, and we saw the consequences of that. So let's go and answer some questions here. And again, feel free to drop the questions down below, or anything regarding real estate investing, buying apartments, fixing, flipping a house. If you want to talk about Helocs all day, I can more than happy to do that. Okay. In fact, I'm thinking about naming my next pet Heloc, and then the pet after that will be a Helon. Okay. Of course, it's just a joke. My wife will hate that, right? Okay, so Sleepy Time is saying, I have a Heloc for $35,000 and I have $2,000 cash flow each month. Congratulations, that's amazing. Should I just put the $2,000 a month straight into the mortgage and avoid the interest on the Heloc at 7%, or should I keep chunking? So I feel like way too many of you guys are super focused on the interest rate. I get it, because that's how we were taught. Okay, that's how we were taught. And unfortunately, how we're taught is how we got into the mess in the first place of being in debt. So, guys, as much as I want to tell you guys, and engrave this in your mind, please, is don't focus on the interest rate as much. In the context of the strategy, don't focus on the interest rate as much as you guys think. Focus on reducing the average daily balance. When the average daily balance is reduced, the interest rate doesn't really have much power. Okay, you guys are focused on the symptom, not the cause. Focus on the cause, and the symptom will go away, right? If you have a cold, okay, and you drink medicine, the medicine is really there to cover the symptoms, right? It reduces coughing, but really doesn't stop the cause of what has caused for you to get that cold or sickness, right? So much like what we're talking about here, don't focus on fixing the symptom, focus on the cure of the problem, which is the average daily balance. Reduce the average daily balance and the interest will go away, okay? If you have zero average daily balance, you have zero interest. You have nothing to worry about in terms of how much interest you're paying. So focus on paying down the average daily balance. And the way that we do that is, if you guys seen the strategy video, the 25-minute explainer video, is take all of your income and your cash and your cash flow and put it in your HELOC. And I know that sounds crazy to some people out there. It does, because that's how, again, what's normal is what's causing the trouble and what's causing all these indebtedness, right? I get it. People are saying, well, everyone's just throwing extra money in their mortgage. Well, that's why everyone isn't paying off their mortgage, right? You got to be willing to do something that's different and apart from the mainstream, right? I mean, you look at Galileo, right? The guy who said, hey, the earth is round. And people are like, oh, no, it's not. It's flat. And everyone thought that earth was flat at one point. And if you went far enough in the ocean, you'll literally fall off the edge of the earth. Well, of course, we today know that Earth is not flat, it's round. Of course, some people still think it's flat, but it's not, it's round, right? And that's something that we need something to overcome. Like right now, what I'm telling you guys is that the Earth is round, and majority of the people think, oh no, the Earth is flat, no, you don't want to sail too far up the ocean. So what I'm teaching here, guys, it is revolutionary, it's different, it might sound risky, right? But think about it. For those people who are hearing, hey, the earth is round, people are like, oh my gosh, what blasphemy is this, right? People thought Galileo was crazy and he had to recant, right? The back in the day, people were like so spooked out that they told Galileo, hey, stop saying it or we're going to kill you. Luckily, no one's trying to kill me. Of course, the banks hate me, but no one's trying to kill me for telling you guys that using a HELOC is going to save you much more time and interest in paying off your debt. So coming around, take all of your income, throw it in the HELOC, reduce the average daily balance. You got the double income utilization, meaning you can go and use that HELOC again to go in and cover your expenses. And of course, if you guys are a student of our program, you guys will know about the hybrid strategy, which the hybrid strategy involves being able to maximize interest savings. I mean, we won't get into detail, but yeah, what I always suggest is don't worry about that 7% interest rate as much, because if you focus on lowering the average daily balance, that 7% is not going to feel like 7% at all. Okay? I get that 7% is a lot more than 3.25. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like saying that 1 degree Celsius is hotter than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which it is, right? 1 obviously is a smaller number than 32, but different metrics. Guys, remember, mortgages use what's called amortization. It uses amortization scheduled payments. It uses compounding metrics, whereas in a home equity line of credit, it uses simple interest. It uses average daily interest. So 2 different types and 2 different ways that interest is applied. So to say, oh, 7% is higher than 3.25, well, it's kind of unfair. It's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. They're not the same thing. Okay, 2 different types of instruments. And this is where people get wrong, folks, is that they think, oh, 7% is higher than 3.25. Obviously, you shouldn't get a HELOC. Obviously, you should just stick with the mortgage. Well, that's kind of like saying that, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is hotter than 5 degrees Celsius, which we all know, if you've gone through 7th grade math or 7th grade science, that 5 degrees Celsius is a little bit more hotter than 32 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. So, guys, just understand that the banks don't want you to know this stuff, right? The banks has zero interest in teaching you this stuff. It's not an accident that we don't learn this in high school. It's not an accident that we learn this in college, unless you're a financial degree, right? It's not an accident that we don't learn this stuff in school. The bank's job is to keep us blinded in the dark so that we won't know how to pay off these mortgages, and less profitable to the banks. So the reason why we started this YouTube channel, guys, is to educate you and teach you things that the schools don't teach you. Not even college, guys. There's topics that we talk about here not to toot our own horns here, but we teach stuff that not even master's degree level teach, as far as finances and real estate investing and so on. So man, guys, you guys have to understand, interest rate doesn't speak the whole entire story. It doesn't tell the entire story. Focus on paying down the average daily balance, and the interest will follow. Okay. All right, go and drop down more questions. I see a lot of you guys here joining us. Thank you so much for joining. Anyways, guys, go and drop down the questions that you guys have, comments. If you guys want to have a little friendly debate, I'll be more than happy to do so. I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy intellectual conversations. So go and drop them down below. So in the spirit of this topic, be sure to also hit the like button, turn that like button into blue, okay? Turn that into blue, and make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you guys get notified for our future videos that are coming out. We got lots of cool videos coming out, prepping for leading up to Christmas. So definitely hit the subscribe button. It will help us a lot. And yeah, the like button is going to help us a lot in terms of our YouTube algorithm, gets our video out there even more, and it helps us a lot. So please do hit the like button. It's free. It doesn't cost you any money to hit that like button. So please do so. All right. We got Antonio. Hello from San Diego, California. Hey. I'm sure it's warmer over there than Chicago. Over here in Chicago, it's cold. It's getting, we're seeing like low 40s and upper 30s. It's getting cold. So, yeah. Okay. Sleepy Times is saying, I understand the strategy and been using it. Just wondering if it will be more beneficial if I put it straight in. Thanks. Yeah. So putting straight into the mortgage does. I mean, it still works. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to argue against that because it's fact, right? You're putting extra money into the mortgage will work, but it's not going to work as well as using our strategy. And I'm not being biased about it. I'm telling you guys strictly from the point that I've done data research and calculated different results. And in most cases, 9 out of 10, you're going to see far more savings in not only time and money. You're going to see a lot more liquidity, and you're going to get access to the principal again. If you want to invest in the future, if you want to buy rental properties, it gives you that flexibility to do so. And in case you have an emergency, you have the Heloc for absolute dire emergencies that may happen. Life happens all the time. So be sure you stay liquid, you have cash available, and you can do that through our strategy. Okay, so let's talk about what's going to happen in the future in terms of HELOCs. What I see and what I envision, I think HELOCs are going to stay here for good. I don't think they're not going to go away anytime soon. Same thing with PLOCs, personal line of credit. If you're in business, you also have the option to get a BLOC, a business line of credit. Of course, if you want to get a BLOC, you have to at least have your business for 2 years in running. I think most banks do what's called stated income BLOCs, meaning you don't have to necessarily turn in your tax return. You just state however much your gross income is in your business, and they'll give you a BLOC, a business line of credit, based on the stated income. And what I love about business line of credit is that many times it's not reported to your personal credit. So you sort of create a divide between your business credit and your personal credit. You separate the liability, which is great. It gives you a lot of protection for your own personal credit, but also at the same time, you get to sort of segment what's business to use and what's personal use. So that's the best part.
Alberto would like to know.
Yeah.
What are the typical charges when getting a HELOC?
Yeah. So what are the typical charges when getting a HELOC? So a lot of times when it comes to HELOC charges, you'll get the application fee, which is like $50, $60. Banks, some banks may charge you closing costs, but there are more banks that don't. You also have to pay for appraisal fee unless you're doing more of a drive-by appraisal. If you're not getting a whole lot of HELOC, the banks may say, you know what, since you're not getting a whole lot, we'll just do a drive-by appraisal, or we'll just do a computer appraisal, which is basically looking up to see what the comparable value is based on whatever nearby homes that were sold in your area. But if you're going for a 90% or 80% loan to value, they're going to want to do a full-blown appraisal, which is going to be anywhere between $400 to $800 for appraisal, but there's hardly any closing cost. I know when getting a mortgage, there's a lot of closing costs, sometimes thousands of dollars. But when it comes to getting a first position HELOC or even a second position HELOC, there's hardly any closing costs other than an appraisal and maybe a really small application fee. Some banks also charge an annual fee of like $50, $65, which isn't a whole lot. But there's also banks that completely waive that. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to answer the next batch of questions after I address what's going to happen in next 2020. Because if I don't do this, the whole show's lost. So So I'll get to your questions in just a sec, but let's first address what I believe is going to happen in the next 2020 or 2021 or the next 5 years, which I believe HELOCs and PLOCs, BLOCs are all going to stay. They're going to stick around. But what I do imagine seeing, guys, is that when the recession does happen, we're going to see the same type of reaction that we saw from the banks or the government. The government is going to try to pull back. They're going to try to put some more restrictions in the bank. Who knows it all depends on who gets elected in 2020. If we see another Republican conservative candidate that gets elected, we're going to see less regulation, and we're going to see less of strictness in terms of how we control the banks. But if we see a Democrat or more of a liberal presidential candidate elected, we're going to see a lot more tightening. There's going to be even more regulation in terms of how the consumer protection laws are set, which can be good and cannot, or could be bad. There's, both sides of the coin that could be addressed. But I do believe, guys, in next year or two, both Daniel and I believe that there is going to be a recession. So what that means for all of us here is that, number one, we need to stay focused in reducing expenses. I know there's so many people that are out there today that say, oh, the economy is doing so well. I have more money now. I have more liquidity. I'm going to go and take a vacation. I'm going to buy a new car, or I'm going to go in and spend my money on buying a new boat, or I'm going to go and buy a second home or a vacation home. Okay? Bad move. Bad move. What you should be focusing on is reducing expenses. Figure out where you can cut. Figure out where you can reduce, because what happens is you either proactively cut these expenses, okay, stay disciplined, or you're going to be forced to cut the expenses and forced to cut these types of lifestyle things that you have when the recession happens. So you're better off cutting these expenses back and reducing any excess expenditures before the recession happens. And the reason why I say that is you want to stay as liquid as possible. You want to have at least, for when the recession comes, you want to have at least a year's worth of quote-unquote savings. Now, of course, if you're using our strategy, you won't have to worry about that because you got your HELOC account. But if you're even more paranoid, you may want to hold cash as well. So one thing that here in the Kwak Brothers, what we're doing is we're trying to cut as much expenses as possible. We're going back to our contracts. We're going back to our vendors. We're going back to our spendings and looking at our books to see, okay, where are we bleeding? Where can we shed? Where can we cut? Where can we cut back? Because the message out there right now is to expand, buy more, expand, buy more, expand, and buy more. Well, we sort of have to have what's called a contrarian philosophy of investing, which means that if everyone else is looking one way, we got to look this way to see what's going on. So if everyone right now is spending, building, developing, whatever, well, here at the Kwak Brothers, we're looking at the other direction saying, okay, what can we do to cut back expenses and stay liquid so that when the recession comes, we have cash, we have liquidity, we have available credit to go ahead and expand and buy reduced price assets. That is the key to growing your net worth. It's not about buying all the time 24/7. It's about timing your investments in the right way so that you buy it in a time where the price of the asset's cheap, whether it's real estate, securities, bonds, stocks, mutual funds. We want to buy them when it's hot cheap. Okay, we don't want to buy them when they're like this high, right? We want to buy them when they're down low here. So keep that in mind. If everyone is telling you, oh, I just bought a vacation home. Oh, I just bought a new car. Oh, I just bought useless things that don't make you money, okay? And I'm not telling you guys don't buy stuff. I'm telling you guys don't buy stuff that's not going to create more income for you, right? That's the key, is buy assets that produce income, such as real estate, such as a business. Maybe you buy a car for you to do Uber. I don't know. But whatever the case might be, focus on buying assets, not liabilities, okay? So I take a quick sip from unbranded coffee. Ta-da. Okay, here we go. So focus on buying assets that produce income, okay? And then shed out any expenses that you're incurring. And pay off as much debt, because when you hold on to debt, when the recession comes, banks get a little bit scary and spooked, and they may start to do stuff with you, and you don't want like it. So I've seen investors having to fork over millions and millions of dollars because they were way too over leveraged during a recession. So you don't want to be that person. Okay. All right. So let's go and address some questions here. We got more batches of questions. Okay. Let's see. Johnny Trong is saying, I have a $250,000 HELOC. Could I use HELOC to pay off my $110,000 on my primary home? Yeah, absolutely. So you can take your HELOC, wipe out your mortgage. Now you have a first position HELOC, okay, first position lien position, and basically use our strategy, take all of your income, put it against the HELOC, use the HELOC, and treat it like a checking account. And that's pretty much the thesis of our strategy. So yes, you can do it that way, and what you may also even do is, if you're so spooked about the interest rate, you can even negotiate the interest rate now that it's on a first position HELOC, it's a first position loan. You can go back to the bank and say, hey, listen, this is a first position lien. Let's negotiate the interest rate. It's a less of a risk premium. It shouldn't be high as 9 or 8%. Let's bring it down, right? You can even negotiate that if that's something that you want to do. Okay. All right. Robert Ritter is saying, what happens when interest rates go up on the HELOCs? Thanks. So interest rates, I mean, let me put it this way. It doesn't matter. Okay. I know you're shocked. You're like, oh my gosh, did he just say that? Right? Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, in the context of our strategy, it does not matter. It's going to still save you more money than holding onto your traditional 30-year doggone mortgage. So even if the interest rates go up on the HELOC, which is highly unlikely because the fact that Federal Reserve just went out and said, you know what, we're going to go and reduce interest rates even more next year, right? Which signals, again, a slowdown in the economy. But even if the interest rates go up, it does not matter. You should go and play with our calculator, because I play with our own calculator all the time. Even increasing the interest rate of your HELOC to 9%, calculation doesn't lie. So go and check out the calculation. I think it's going to give you absolute clarity as to how much more money you can save, even with the interest rate going up on your HELOC home equity line of credit. And at the same time, another way to sort of dispel that is there are fixed rate interest rates, fixed rate HELOCs out there. So not all HELOCs are variable interest rate, guys. I know banks may advertise it that way, but there is a way to lock your interest rate on your HELOC. Okay, let me repeat that. There is a way to lock and fix your interest rate on your home equity line of credit. So there's a way. Doesn't mean that just because the banks are telling, hey, it's variable, it can go up, it can go down. Doesn't mean that that's the only option that you have. There are fixed rate interest rate HELOCs that are out there. You just need to find out where. Okay. All right. Here we go. We got Arnie Ambito is saying, what banks/credit union is the best and easiest to get a personal line of credit? Somebody put a lien on my home, so it is difficult to get a HELOC at this time until I am able to clear the lien. So two-part question there. First one is how do I get a personal line of credit? And second part is I know this wasn't a question, but I'll address it anyways, is how to clear the lien. So the first part is which bank is the easiest and the best to get a PLOC? The answer is your own bank that you have a checking account. Chances are you've already built this relationship with them, having a checking account or a savings account with them. They're probably the best bet when it comes to your personal line of credit. And what's nice is if you get a personal line of credit with your own bank that you already have with, in terms of checking account, you can link your personal line of credit and your checking account, and you can transfer money back and forth just by a phone app. And it's easy as a couple seconds. Just log in quickly, transfer money over to your checking account, and boom, you're done. Right? It makes it super duper easy to use your personal line of credit. Now, as far as removing the lien, I would suggest, obviously, it may be a mechanical lien, it could be other tax liens, sort of things. I would definitely employ a legal professional to help you with that. Trying to remove any sort of lien on your own could result in more damage than you think. So I would work with a legal professional that's expert in real estate that could help you combat or litigate whatever methodology your legal professional recommends that you use. I would go with them and have them help you remove the lien in any way possible. Okay. All right, here we go. We got Robert Ritter that says appreciating assets. Absolutely. Not only appreciating assets, you want also income producing asset. Okay, this is another thing that drives me crazy is that people say, "Oh, forget about income, just get it appreciate it." Right? Like this is what stockbrokers tell me, or people who are so obsessed with stocks, they tell me, "Well, no, Sam, it's not about the income, it's about the appreciation." Well, I mean, what are you going to do with appreciation? You can't eat your appreciation, right? You need to have income. You need to have money coming in so that you could have food on the table, clothes on your the back of the kids and gas in your car. If you don't have income, if you don't have cash flow, right? It doesn't matter what your net worth is. If you don't have income, you're sort of screwed, right? So have not only appreciating assets, that's great, that's amazing. You know, net worth is great. That's something that we also focus on too. But another thing you need to get is cash flow. Okay, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Income producing asset that's also appreciating. Now, by virtue, you can appreciate the asset by increasing the income of an asset, right? Think about it. If the asset produces more income, does it become more valuable? Right? It does. If you have a business that's producing more income, does it become more valuable? Absolutely. So it's kind of twofold, right? If you know how to manipulate, and I know manipulating is not the best word, but if you know how to improve or optimize the income of a given asset, then you can sort of control the appreciation. Okay, so it's really important. Like, don't get behind the 8 ball and just guess. Okay, I think it's going to appreciate next year. Okay, that's a terrible way to invest. Terrible way to invest. You'll probably have better luck going to Vegas and playing on a blackjack table and guessing which card to hit or to stay. It's better to do it that way than thinking, okay, I think it's going to appreciate next year. I don't know. I'm just going to hope that it does. Okay, this is why buy an income-producing asset, because you can control the appreciation. Let me give you an example. Let's say I buy an apartment, an 8-unit apartment. I got 8 families living there, paying me rent every single month. Well, if I could deliver a better service, increase the quality of our housing of different units, thus increasing the income, increasing the rents of the individual 8 units. You know, if I figure out, let's say I install a laundromat service in this 8-unit apartment building, thus I increase my income. Well, guess what? By virtue of raising the income, by virtue of raising the rents, I have now increased the worth, increased the value of the asset, because there's more income that I got to create out of this 8-unit. I'm squeezing more cash out of the 8-unit without hurting the asset. Now I got more in terms of value on the asset. So I like to, what Dana like to say is, we like to invest in assets that we can force appreciate. We can control how much we can appreciate the property. This is actually a real example. We went and bought an 8-unit apartment, $250,000 apartment, 8-unit. We went from $750 of rent, I think $600 or $750, I can't remember, but we went from $750 rent and raised it to $950, and we reduced expenses. We cleaned up the apartment. We remodeled and rehabbed the apartment, and we were able to increase the value of the apartment from $250,000 to $600,000. So we became $350,000 even more wealthier than we started. So this is, my opinion is, this is significantly better than investing in stocks and sort of crossing your fingers and saying, oh, I hope next year Microsoft stock will go up. Or I hope next year Apple stocks will go up, right? Or I hope that my investment or my bond, my mutual fund will appreciate, okay? I mean, as much as I love the word hope, okay, when you invest, you have to have an exit strategy. You have to have a strategy. Okay, I know if I do X, Y, and Z, my asset will appreciate because of what I've done, right? That's the type of investment that I like to get into. Not in some, okay, I'm gonna invest in Apple and hope that they release iPhone 59 and I get rich, right? I don't think that's much of an investment plan. It's pretty much kicking your money over to Wall Street and saying, hey, you deal with my money and I hope I get rich from that. Okay, it's kind of like telling people, hey, can you go pee for me? I know that was a little inappropriate, but it's kind of like, hey, can you go to the bathroom for me? I really need to go to the bathroom. Can you go to the bathroom for me? It doesn't work that way, right? We all know. So when it comes to investments, guys, you got to have your hand over the influence. You got to be able to influence your investments because it is your money. It is your hard-earned money, right? You worked really hard for it, guys. Why kick over your money and your savings to people that don't have any interest? They don't know your family. They don't know your children. They don't know your plans. They don't know your legacy. Why kick over your money to people that don't know who you are? Like they don't really care. Like all they care is about making that commission, 3% commission for managing a portfolio. That's all they care about, folks. So, guys, when it comes to investment, invest in income-producing asset, but also appreciating asset. That's important. We want to increase our net worth and become wealthy. That's really important. But there's a certain degree that we need to have our influence over our investment, and we need to get educated on it. Okay, this is something that we should be learning in school, but we're not. So I'm telling you guys this right now because I think this is super important for all of us. And it really pains me to see, 65 or 70-year-olds that work at Walmart as door greeters. And I'm not making fun of them or anything like that. I'm not degrading these guys. I wish the best for these individuals, but it just pains me. It breaks my heart to see 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds that can't retire and they have to work till pretty much they get sick or they die. This is not the way that we should be. The financial health should be. We should be living in a much thriving environment, and it's not working out that way, right? It's not working out that way, and I think we need to change that right here in our YouTube channel. We want to teach you things that make sense. Okay, we want to teach you things that are going to help you become more wealthier, are going to help you sort of navigate around the pitfalls that the mainstream financial tactics are being taught. That's the point. That's the key here. That's the heart that we have here with the Kwak Brothers. Okay, so let's go answer some more questions we have, and we'll wrap up the show. Can you explain the BRRRR strategy? So the BRRRR strategy is BRRRR. There's so many R's in there. BRRRR. So that stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So the virtue of the BRRRR strategy, the basics of BRRRR strategy is you buy a distressed property, a property that's significantly undervalued. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to rehab the property, make it look really nice, rentable. It's great, gorgeous, and you rent it out, okay, to a tenant, and you're collecting rent, and then you go and refinance because you, again, going back to the forced appreciation, now the home value is significantly higher, so you can go and refinance and cash out, take the money out. Now you can go and repeat that process all over again. Now, the problem that I have with the strategy, it's neither good or bad. It's not like I hear so many people like, oh, the BRRRR strategy is the God strategy. It's amazing. It's incredible. Like it works 100% of the time. Yeah, not really. Well, here's what I have to say. I like the BRRRR strategy, but at the same time, I don't like the BRRRR strategy. And here's my argument with any strategy. I don't care what strategy you give me, subject to owner financing, seller carryback mortgage strategy. I don't care whatever strategy you talk about. Here's the foundation that you need to understand with any and all strategy. Strategies don't work without the context being there, okay? People focus so much on the fighting tactic, but they don't focus on the battlefield. And here's what I mean, okay? The BRRRR strategy works really great at a certain phase and a certain timing of the market. It doesn't work well in a highly appreciated seller market. It doesn't work really well when all the homes are super appreciated. We're at the height of the market. It really doesn't work well at that point. Where it does work is when we're in a recovery phase out from a recession. So let's say the recession happened, boom, people are distressed and bad things are happening. And then about a year or two later, this is when the recovery sort of starts to slowly happen. This is where the BRRRR strategy is very effective because you're sort of riding on the coattail of the appreciation and the recovery. So people tell me all the time, Sam, the BRRRR strategy is amazing. Well, yeah, it's amazing at a certain time period, but it absolutely sucks and it's terrible at a different or a given period that obviously we're in right now. So no strategy is ever good or bad, okay? Just remember that. No strategy is ever good or bad. Even our own Heloc strategy, guys, our own Heloc strategy is neither good or bad. I'll tell you guys right now, after the recession happens, I'll tell you don't use our strategy. Go out there and buy more properties, okay? I'll tell you guys, I'll be flat out, be honest. I'll say, hey, you know what? The Heloc strategy, totally irrelevant at this point in time. Totally irrelevant for the next 3 years. Totally irrelevant while we're at this phase of recovery and recession. Okay, and I'll be honest. I'll tell you, I'm not gonna be here and sitting around and say, hey, the Heloc strategy is amazing. You should use it forever. Not really. You should be, at a certain point in time, if you want to expand, if you want to grow your finances, okay, you should put that on hold and start buying properties because properties are being sold for cheap, and this is where we make our money. So no strategy is ever good or bad. It's only good or bad depending on the user, depending on the market situation, depending on the phase where we are in terms of are we in a bull market or in a bear market. It all depends on, guys. So don't just solely rely on a strategy and say, oh, the Heloc strategy is my savior. The BRRRR strategy is my savior. Well, first of all, okay, I'm going to say right now, Jesus Christ is the only savior that I got here, okay? But I'm telling you right now, guys, it's the timing of the market. The economy dictates what strategy you should use, okay? You're not going to go and try to use a screwdriver when it's time to nail in something on the wall, okay? If you got a nail, you're not going to use a screwdriver. You're going to have to use a hammer, right? At the same time, if you're trying to glue something together, if you're trying to cut something, okay, let's say I'm trying to cut this piece of desk right here, I'm not going to use a hammer. I'm not going to be banging on this until it chops in half, right? I'm going to be going out and use a saw. So depending on the context and the economy, the timing, guys, strategies must adapt. Strategies do not win battles. Strategies do not make you money. It's about understanding the timing, the economy, okay, and knowing when to use a strategy is what wins the battle and will make you money. Okay, so let's go and address a few more questions and we'll go and cut the show. Let's see here. We got Chase Bank doesn't do personal unsecured line of credit. Can you recommend another bank and or credit union for a PLOC in the San Diego area? So Arnie, I would say that if you have a checking account with Chase, I mean, you may have to move your checking account if you want to get another PLOC. You don't have to, but it makes it easier. So there's big banks that do it, but a lot of times it's going to be your local credit unions as well as community banks that actually have better deals than some of these big banks. These big banks, I mean, they're sort of, I hate to say it this way, but they're sort of full of themselves sometimes that they don't want to give you certain loan products. But these smaller banks, credit unions, sometimes they have better deals than your big, giant national banks. Okay. Arnie is following up and saying the only unsecured PLOC I have is a Capital One credit card with a $15,000 limit. However, the interest rate is over 20%, so I don't see a benefit of using this credit card to initiate the strategy. What do you think? So you still can use a credit card, not the best way, not the most favorable way to do it. There's a difference between a personal line of credit and a credit card. Personal line of credit tends to be more liquid. The access to cash is a little bit more easier than your credit card. So getting a personal line of credit is probably more of a more preferred than just sticking with your credit card. And of course, HELOC tends to be a little bit more better if you're trying to pay off your mortgage. But if you're just trying to pay off your credit card, a PLOC, a personal line of credit, will do justice as far as paying off your credit card. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So I think that's pretty much it for today, guys. So it is 11:51 a.m. Central Time. I want to thank everybody for watching and attending our show. We'll be back next week, Monday. Daniel will be back from his honeymoon. I know, yes, he just got married. So he'll be back next Monday to answer questions about real estate investing strategies. And I'll be back next Wednesday to also talk about more things about HELOCs. And we're also thinking about moving our shows to evening time. So if that's something that you guys want us to do, or if you guys want us to seriously think about, go and comment down below what time and day would you prefer us to do the show. I know a lot of you guys are at work, so it may be harder to watch our shows. So tell us when would you like us to move our shows, if it's evening or morning, what day. Tell us, give us a vote, give us an idea. That'll help us a lot. If you guys have not done already, go ahead and click on the like button. Press that like button so that it turns blue. It's free. There's no cost of doing it, but it does help us a lot when it comes to the YouTube algorithm. And also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you get notified for our future videos. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Tune in tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. as we release yet again another amazing video. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.